Today, we will discuss.
Do you put an H at the end of discuss? We have much to discuss.
Have you ever talked before?
I remember my first podcast episode.
Welcome to the Afterthoughts podcast. Today, we will discuss such topics as nature, Doug drinking very loudly while I'm talking, phones,
Yep.
Christmas season,
Sure.
the college football playoff. Anything else?
That's all, E.
Everything else.
Well, you're really in for a treat then. After thinkers, you cannot wait to listen to this whole episode. In the comments,
And AG1
I'd like to know.
cannot wait to get back to us about
They
this
are
potential
dying.
They're
sponsorship.
just dying to. I want to
Yep.
ask you guys a question.
Okay.
And feel free to comment, After thinkers. What is the ideal time of a podcast episode? Like if you pull one up, what are you hoping to see?
Are you saying like to skip to a timestamp?
No,
Like,
no,
man,
the full length.
36:26 is always so good.
Why would I be asking that? I mean like the length of the episode.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah. I'm just going to move on from Ryan's question.
I've got an answer, but you're not going to like it
I
because
think-
we don't do it.
I think it's subjective based on not the person, but the kind of podcast.
Okay.
I think it's objective and it's 22 because
Okay.
that's
Okay.
what we're conditioned to watch episodes of.
42 or
answer.
42, right?
22.
And 42 is like an
Yep.
hour.
And we are
Interesting.
We just sail right past.
Okay, but Joe Rogan's podcasts are 3 hours.
Yeah.
Long form.
People love that.
People like it.
What do you prefer? It is subjective, which is why I asked you both the question.
Mine's 22, and I'm going have a point and make it,
Okay.
and then I'll move on.
Okay.
Mine's an hour.
All right. Well, we'll be somewhere between those.
Great.
Yep.
Great.
What's yours?
I'd say if I see like 30 to 40 minutes, that's probably my.
Okay.
Yeah. So good for us for exceeding our own expectations.
Maybe
Yeah.
next time we'll estimate ourselves.
Well, let's jump right in then, for Ryan's sake.
Because 30 to
Didn't know you
40
were
is
bored all this time in 66
guys,
episodes of this
we
podcast.
only have 20 minutes left.
Okay.
when you have a commute and there's traffic, it's 30 to 40. When
Yeah,
I
that's
have a commute and there's traffic, it's an hour.
Yeah. And Ryan.
They're self-conscious
Spikes-
about the way their
spikes.
pee smells.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Next question. Next
Okay.
question.
Elf.
Sorry, I'm kind of taking your bit. No.
Yeah.
A newer Christmas movie you've seen, not one of the classics that you always watch, but have you seen a newer one that you're like, this might get added to my list to
Dude,
watch
I
every year?
honestly have not.
Okay.
I haven't watched a movie, Christmas movie that was made post 2005 in a
Wow.
long time.
Oh wow.
So in the iPhone era, you've never,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I've never texted somebody. Have you seen this movie?
Maybe I have and I
This
don't
new movie?
remember. Give me some examples of like a newer Christmas
Okay, I'll tell
movie.
you one that
Okay.
I watched 2 years ago and
Four
I've continued to watch.
Christmases
Newer,
with
newish.
Vince Vaughn?
Yeah, newish. The movie Klaus.
Klaus.
Oh,
It's on Netflix. It's animated.
Santa Claus?
Or is it Claus?
You're on the right track.
Is it a play on words? Like the Santa
Both.
Claus?
You guys are perceptive. How'd you know it would be related to Santa? It's really good.
Uh-huh.
It's deep.
Yeah.
I'm trying to integrate some new Christmas movies into
Yeah,
my
man.
routine because I watch the same ones and I like the same ones, but there's been
That's
some
good,
new
man.
good ones made. So
I'm going to
check
practice
that out. Okay. College football playoff. Everyone has been asking what we think about it.
Everyone. They can't get enough
Just
of
tell
our
him.
opinion.
Just tell them.
The main controversy, which you'll be happy about, Kayla, because Kayla is an Auburn Tiger, is that Alabama was left out of the top 12.
Not enough room in the inn.
And SMU stayed in, even though they lost the ACC championship. Here's what I think happened.
Mm.
If Alabama had gotten in, which I think they would beat SMU head to head, they are probably the better team and probably should be in if we're just going off best team. But if they had gotten in, conference championships would be no longer needed.
Obsolete.
Because if a team makes it to their conference championship and they currently are going to get in, but then they lose that extra game that they earn their way to, while another team's at home not having to play in a conference championship, then what's the point of going to your conference championship?
And this brings me to my next point.
Yes.
It's better to play the game and lose than to not play the game at all.
Yes.
And so to the person who's out there trying to figure out if they should take that risk, but they're scared because what if they fail?
Don't do it.
What if you don't do it and then you see that that's actually the greater risk?
Oh,
Wow.
My gosh.
Yes.
And I will
Okay.
just say
Anyways.
to the Alabama fans complaining out there, Wade Lombard included, your team was 9-3. You did not have to lose 3 games. That's on you.
True.
And you made them have to have a conversation of whether you should get in or not. So, sorry. We're the fringe 12-13 team as well. So with the 12-team playoff, I like that that's the argument versus a fourth team getting in. That feels like they
I'm
are a
excited
game
for
away.
12
Just
games,
an ownership
for 12 teams,
thing.
man.
It's an ownership thing.
It's
Should the Buffs be in? Of course they should.
They should.
This was corruption and a lot of politics. But
Unbelievable.
I will say, if Travis Hunter
bitterness and go ahead.
does not win the Heisman,
Oh,
this podcast will riot and
I
we will
will
rant.
overturn this table.
The world will hear from us
With
if
the
Travis Hunter
microphones
does not
on.
win the Heisman. I have a guy in this church. I don't want to throw him under the bus, but it's Nathan from the cafe. Has a $20 bet with me that Travis will not win the Heisman, and said he was mid on both sides of the ball. And we're talking about a guy who set the school record for most touchdown receptions in a season as a wide receiver and was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. If he doesn't win the Heisman,
but back it up
college
with some
football,
stats.
college football is
just
dead.
Yeah.
So the Longhorns, last thing, Longhorns have a good path in the bracket.
Let's go.
I like their path to the championship. They have a championship team. They just need that spark. And I believe they can win it all.
Let's get the Longhorns up here.
Yeah, come on. Praying for a national championship.
They should come to church this weekend. Get that spark.
And our volleyball girls are down. It's down to 8 teams currently when this podcast is being filmed. Let's go. And we are also rooting them on for a national championship.
Big couple weeks for sports.
Big couple weeks for sports.
Yeah.
Let's go Broncos.
Yep.
Let's go Longhorns.
Yep.
And let's go to Kayla for questions with Kayla.
Dun. Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Kayla, great to have you here for the 66th
Kayla,
time.
you don't have to say that.
The 1 second of just silence.
That was
great.
That was awesome.
Woo!
And the
Really?
dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
A really good
Yeah.
intro, as if you were a guest.
Yes.
Kayla, it's great
I'm
to
a
have you
guest.
back.
Thank you so much
on
for
the
having me
podcast.
back.
Hey, by the way, guys, thanks for having me.
No problem.
Yeah.
We don't really have a choice on that.
Neither
Yeah.
of you have thanked me
It's in your
for
contract.
having you.
I won't.
No. Okay.
No, it's fine.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go.
So,
Questions with Kayla. If you're new
Questions
to the
with-
show, we have a segment called Questions with Kayla, where Kayla, who you do not see but you do hear,
Right.
she's got kind of the Wilson from Home Improvement identity thing going on. You haven't seen that show?
No.
You don't quite ever see his face, so you don't
Oh.
totally know what he looks like.
Or Deal or No Deal.
Oh, the dealer.
Guy in the window.
The dealer, yeah.
Oh,
Or the
Oh,
banker.
yes.
The banker.
The banker. Yes.
The banker.
Yes. So that's
Wow.
me.
I wonder how
So
many
that's
of
you.
our afterthinkers, if they were to vote, which ones know which reference more? Between the banker from Deal or
True,
No
yeah,
Deal or
comment
Wilson
below.
from
Put
Home
it in the
Improvement?
comments.
Wow. Yeah.
That's true. That
I'm
kind of
guessing
like
it's going to be low for both.
Yeah.
But I am curious which one's, a little higher.
Yes.
So,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It'd be like 3 votes and 3 votes, probably. So
Well, we get
okay.
hundreds and hundreds of comments and likes and
True.
views.
Uh-huh.
So
We do.
that's
we
exciting.
we just don't show
So
them.
many comments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
we
trying
wanna
to
be
stay
humble.
humble.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
ask YouTube to lower our numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those who
great.
humble themselves will be exalted
Yes.
by YouTube.
Mhm.
Kayla,
Hey.
it's so good to have you here.
Yeah.
Would you ask us some questions?
Yes. I thought we could do something super fun. We've done it before, but let's make it Christmassy.
Okay.
So it has to be something Christmas, either like movies or seasons, traditions, all
Okay.
things Christmas.
Okay.
I'm going to count
Great.
down from 3. You guys say what comes to mind. One
Oh.
word, one
Okay.
object, one thing. And then we're going to try to get you guys to end up saying the same word, phrase, object.
The first word that comes to mind.
That has to be
This
Christmas
feels
related.
dangerous all over again.
Has to be Christmas. So we're
Mhm.
giving you a little bit of help there.
Yep.
And it's going to be kind of quick. So you can't really think that long.
Has to be
Afterthinkers.
Christmassy.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Sounds like it.
All right. So you got your thing?
Are you asking it? Does it have to be Christmas-y or
Was there,
Christmassy?
was there a comma?
Yes, Doug.
Does that have to be Christmas Fry?
Was there a
let-
comma or was it a Y at the end
Yeah.
of Christmas?
It's hard to know.
So let's say you guys say 3 different things. You're going to now take those 3 different objects or whatever,
Yep.
and you're going to try to find the common
Yep.
I
thing
see.
between
So
those.
we're working together.
Yeah, working
All
together.
right. We got this.
You guys
Oh,
are-
yeah. I was bad at this when we did
Yeah,
the first time.
but
I
that's
was
okay.
I think we did
So
it with
don't worry
Jamie
about it.
Kilstein.
We prayed for
I think
you.
we did that with Jamie.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
funny.
Remember we
okay.
did this at our staff advance 2 years ago?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and you and Wade got one
The
like on the
first-
exact
yeah.
first
That was
try, which is
crazy.
wild.
So Doug and Wade yell out a word at the same time, and we both yelled out Irvine.
Yeah, yeah. It was
For Irvine,
very-
A
California.
proper noun.
It was very
Yes.
crazy.
Mhm.
Well,
and then
let's
we
see if we can
hugged,
recreate that magic.
and everybody cried.
Yeah.
I think we've got this on the first go.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
I wept.
All right. Ready, guys? 3, 2, 1.
Star.
Oh, I thought you gave us a prompt. I misheard the
prompt was
directions.
Christmas.
Yeah, no. I misheard the directions. Go ahead. Start again.
okay.
What'd you say? Okay.
He just needed an example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you say, Doug?
Elf.
And what did you say, Ryan?
Star.
Star. All right. You're going to
And
chime in.
I said reindeer, so.
Can we repeat words, or does it have to be a different word
I
now?
think it has to be
should
different.
be like,
Yeah.
Okay. So elf,
But
star,
something-
reindeer.
Something
Okay,
close to
okay,
what Doug
okay,
was
okay.
saying.
Okay. Ready?
Here we go.
3, 2, 1.
Santa.
What did he say?
He didn't.
Oh, he didn't.
Having a tough time with this. Now, this time Ryan doesn't say
Irvine.
anything.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Do an,
let's do it
instant,
again.
do, an
Ready?
instant, do an instant replay of Doug's face. Like,
Slow
he like
motion.
knew he was not, as he was not saying something, was like, ah.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready? Yep.
All right. Are we starting over? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Wait.
3, 2, 1.
Presents.
Okay.
You said
Doug.
clouds?
Klaus.
Oh,
What did you say?
snow.
I said
Okay.
presents.
Okay. All right.
We're moving further apart.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Christmas. What'd you say? What'd you say?
Tree. And
Tree.
you said Christmas.
Yeah, like a Christmas tree.
That's the prompt.
Like a Christmas
Prompt,
sleigh.
Yeah.
We're close.
Yep.
It just says the prompt.
Ethan said tree, huh?
Christmas is such a good one.
Yeah, it's the theme.
Yeah.
It's the prompt that I
Yeah.
was waiting for that I
Yeah.
already had.
Yep.
You said
He-
tree?
I did.
Okay.
And you said,
Sleigh. Mm-hmm.
Let's
Okay.
move towards it.
3, 2, 1.
Ornaments.
Star.
We're really close. We just decorated a tree.
Oh,
All
man.
right. That's great.
This is good.
Okay.
That was good.
That was good. Moving on from that, we'll do. I don't
So
even
we
know.
lost.
Yeah. Just so we don't.
Which is
keep-
crazy because
us a-
we're
yeah.
normally, like Ryan and I are wearing the same hoodie, just different colors
Oh,
today.
yeah.
I forgot to point
True.
that out. It's Twin Day, so happy Twin Day to me and Ryan.
Yeah.
We're just kind of off.
Yeah.
Ever since the eclipse earlier this year.
Oh, dude. I'm so jet
Yeah.
lagged from the eclipse. I cannot get turned
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, we're
to
still trying to process
get the
that.
same word at the
Yeah.
same time.
Well, that was so fun. Thanks, guys, for participating in my game.
You're
Let's
welcome.
do one question to help transition us into the next segment. How about that?
Thank you,
I
Kayla.
feel like
Yeah.
Kayla's like a kindergarten teacher font today. Like
You
that's what
guys
she's
did
coming with.
You guys did such a good job with that game.
It's like
You
a
all
sweet
said things.
condescending, but very sarcastic
Yeah.
behind it.
Yeah.
But the kids don't realize it.
Yeah.
Even though one time Ethan didn't say anything and one time Doug didn't say anything,
Yeah.
you guys, most of the time you all said something.
And
then
normally you start the game with just any word, and we had a full like narrow lane
Yeah.
and still couldn't get it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Let's try one more time. Ready?
Okay.
1,
Wait,
2.
what's the prompt?
Christmas? 1, 2, 3. Christmas. Ah.
Jesus. Woo. Great job, guys.
Yes,
Okay.
he is the
What
reason.
is
Yeah.
your favorite thing to do outside? There you go. How about that? That's a good alley-oop.
Golf.
Surfing.
Both of those.
Yep. I was between
Yeah,
golfing
those are the
and
best
surfing.
two things.
Yeah, they are.
And also just being
Just being outside.
Being outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love to do that.
Does
Yep.
surfing
Watching
count as
Planet
grounding?
Earth.
It's one of the best parts of it is you are so connected to the water
Wow.
and nature.
Yeah.
Surfing is
Yeah.
extreme
Oceaning.
grounding.
Yeah.
Watering.
You are immersed,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah, it's like
in ion water.
Mm-hmm.
it's like the way that VR takes watching a movie
Mm.
to the next level or playing a video game to the
Right.
next level. Surfing does that with grounding,
Wow.
if you will.
I have.
I know.
And I will
I haven't.
again.
And it's the greatest thing ever. It really is.
Sure is.
Yep.
Yes. So
Now
thank
I'm
you for your
thinking-
question, Kayla. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thinking about
Yes.
it too.
I'm thinking
You're
about
welcome.
surfing. Imagine a day in Laguna where we surf in the morning and then we play golf, barefoot golf,
Yeah.
in just board shorts in the sun, just 9 holes. Go to Gina's Pizza after that.
Just to be time conscious on this ideal day.
Yeah, thanks for being time conscious.
Yeah, we don't want to get out of control here.
Not 18.
No.
Not a cart.
Trying to
We're
save
gonna
you
walk
guys.
9.
Trying to save you guys some money.
Thanks, man.
The practical person in the room.
So
that,
Girl Math
okay,
says you just made money, Ryan, because this scenario, I only had you
So true.
golfing 9 holes. So go buy
So,
anything you want today.
what
If you
should I
want to
do with
buy
all
a
my
new
money?
car,
Done.
you
Well,
only played 9 holes in an
This is-
imaginary scenario.
This is the person that when you play an imaginary scenario game, they give you the practical answer that you're like, I mean, you could choose anything. Like,
Yeah,
I don't want to throw her under the bus. This is the second person I'm saying that about. And then throwing her under the bus on this episode. Put a counter up there too.
Yeah, ding ding.
Emily, she can come on here sometime to defend herself. But Doug, one day, this was during COVID when like we were just trying to imagine what it'd be like to be anywhere but living our lives of having a church just driven into the ground by a pandemic.
Yep.
And Doug painted this picture of like everyone gets their own island and
Ooh.
what are you going to bring?
We did this for hours.
What are you going to bring
Jet
and all this
skis.
stuff? And the one item that Emily chose to bring was a cooler of anything you could bring, which was very practical.
Well, I said, yeah, you can go into Dick's Sporting Goods and get anything from
Yeah.
the store.
Yeah.
And she said, well, and then she was like, well, it's a Yeti cooler.
Okay.
but that there is two
That's-
personality types to those types of things. People that
Mhm.
come up with some crazy thing that isn't realistic because it's an imagination game.
Right.
And then people that are like so in it that they need to be very practical about it. Why are we talking about this?
I don't know.
We're not, you are.
1, 2, 3.
Scuba diving.
Claw scuba diving.
Man. All right, we can shave this down. 22 minutes.
Doing
We
great. This is so
cut
good.
out a couple parts of this episode.
Yeah.
We were so prepared.
Okay, but for real, you can walk into Dick's Sporting Goods and pick anything. What do you get? Anything in that store.
For the island that I live
No,
on, or just
for your life right now.
Why? Dick's Sporting
I'm gonna
Goods?
take.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take their golf simulator.
That's a really good answer.
Yeah.
You win.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or the cash registers.
Ethan and Kayla, you both
buy the golf
lose.
simulator.
Or Ryan and Kayla, you both lose.
Golf cart. Do you think they have those there?
No.
No.
Oh.
They sell those at the golf cart store.
I'm gonna get
The golf cart
a
dealership.
gorilla basketball hoop.
Yeah.
Nice. Where are you gonna put it?
I don't
Cool.
know. A driveway.
All right.
There's
It's pretty slanted driveway.
there's always 2 golf simulators, so I'm gonna take the other one.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about
Maybe
getting
a pair
outside.
of 15-pound dumbbells.
Oh, you only get one. It's one item.
Yeah.
Good point.
30-pounder.
Deal. You cut it in half.
No, the dumbbell is Doug's. Give the dumbbell to Doug. He can have it. For those that are not tracking, that was a biblical reference to the wisdom
Oh,
of King
man.
Solomon.
That was so good. All right.
I would
Somebody's
like.
got to save this
I would like
episode.
for us.
And
I would like for us.
it's not going to be Ryan. So
It never is.
you guys go.
So, Doug, how did the idea for your sermon come about? Because
Okay.
it was a different type of sermon.
Yeah.
It's all about being outside, metaphorically and literally.
Yes.
Where did it spark
Um,
from? Sometimes I think people would like to know the process. Where does this start?
Last Monday, so the Monday before I preached it, I was experiencing what we call the holy hangover.
Mm.
Tired of from sermon writing,
Yep.
which is a very grueling process to go through.
Arduous.
And then, preaching it 5 times.
Mm.
Nowadays, when I'm about to preach, I rarely get nervous for the weekend. I'm now getting more nervous for Monday because I just even yesterday woke up and it's like all your dopamine and adrenaline is depleted.
Yeah.
I can have 3 of these
Yeah.
and jump in a cold plunge and go for a walk. And it's like, man, your body, you're like, my brain is taking longer and longer to bounce back, it seems. Anyways, last Monday, I was feeling that, and I was like, and I have to have another message 5 days from now. And I was on a walk, and I had my headphones in, and I don't know, I was starting to feel like claustrophobic outside.
Yeah.
There's some cliffs right there and a river, and I'm feeling claustrophobic outside. And so I took my headphones out and immediately felt better and stopped and took some deep breaths. And And I was like, I kind of want to write a message about what I'm feeling right now. Because when you write a message, you tend to go through what you're writing about.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do I want to spend the week going through? I want to spend the week going through the feeling I have right now of being outside in God's creation and being reminded that a sermon is not something I have to do, it's something I get to do, that God will do it again. And he always makes things happen and it always works out. And he always downloads new content to you. And there was something very healing about being out in the middle of his creation where that just happened fast. And so I'm like, this is kind of a hidden message that doesn't get a lot of airtime, especially nowadays, talking about outside in church.
Yeah.
You know, in the new age world, like we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
But in the church, you know, we kind of don't.
Yeah.
And
Because
so
if maybe feels a little granola hippie.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
go be one with Mother Nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's been hijacked.
And even in the message, I made a joke about grounding and kind of had to spin it off like, do I know if this works? I don't know. I know it works.
Oh yeah.
But I can't really say that or else I'm going to lose
or
a certain
Watch
percentage.
Doug's gonna freak out.
Yes. I'm going to lose a percentage of the, you know what I mean?
That's interesting,
Yeah.
right? We are so afraid of that whole world. Some people are so afraid of that whole world that with one line they'll shut down.
Yeah.
Do you think that's because people have really like worshipped nature and put so much spiritual like meaning into nature itself, the creation rather than the creator, that it's pushed Christian people to like ignore it or be like, that's hippie new age transcendentalism?
I think that happens all the time. And that's where the Pendulum series was born out of.
Yeah.
If culture right now is majoring on this, we need to swing it to the other side so that, you know, even saying a word like energy is like, well, that's off limits if you're a preacher right now, because immediately people are going to be like, oh, next you're going to talk about manifesting.
Yeah.
And okay, well,
The
actually
universe.
those words, actually God everything is energy and God
Right.
created it that way.
Right.
Right.
And
prayer is actually God's design.
right. Exactly.
And so,
just because things have been hijacked doesn't mean, you know, you can't actually take that. No, God, that's God's. And we can't be afraid to have conversations about nature.
Right. Which is also kind of like a funny thing to feel like, oh, that's not really like lining up with Christianity when like God obviously created
the whole first 2
all of this.
chapters
kind of his
all about the creation process.
There were not like parking garages and casinos in the Garden of Eden, right?
I have gotten
What?
But there will be in New Earth, don't worry, right?
Okay, good.
I'm saying this more subjectively for my last week in context here, but my week last week was way more God saturated because I was outside.
Yeah.
Without headphones, with nothing to read, no Devo. Even in headphones, I'm listening to a sermon usually.
Yeah.
And my week was way more saturated with the Holy Spirit because I wasn't listening to a sermon outside, and I wasn't inside reading a Christian book. I was outside just being bored.
So
So
part of
good.
that is posture.
Sure.
Part of that is disconnecting, which you can do inside, right?
For sure.
But there is something different physically about being outside that then also affects you mentally
Yes.
and spiritually. Give some of the science or thoughts behind that of like, you could be undistracted and in a great posture without any content inside.
Right.
But I do think your experience is different when you're outside.
Right.
Why is that?
Yeah. Well, if I could relate it to food for a second.
You could.
Thank you.
Yes.
You will.
Okay, I will. I'm going to relate it to food for just a second.
Yes.
If you walk into the grocery store,
I knew you'd do it.
Man, I'm so excited.
if you go to the outside aisles of the grocery store, all of that stuff is made by God. And everything in the aisles right here is made in factories. And if food is more than just sustenance, it's also information for your body. And you literally are what you eat. And that goes beyond food. That's anything that you consume, whether you eat it or you hear it or you see it, you become what you consume. Whatever you give your attention to is who you are becoming. And it's so funny, like the debates in the nutrition world between vegans or carnivores or paleo diet, or, at the end of the day, what those all have in common and why they all do something, they all really work, is because you're all eating stuff made by God.
Right.
And nobody's eating stuff made in factories.
Right.
Now, each of y'all are eating a different combo of it.
Right.
But what we
Carnivore.
have in common is that this is made by God.
Yeah.
And there's no middleman of
great.
like, so even a tree is made by God.
Yeah.
A house that's made of wood is made out of trees that were made by God, by people who were designed by God to do that.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. Obviously, that's amazing. But that house is indirectly made by God.
Yeah.
That river, that mountain, that ocean, that tree, that grass, that field is directly made by God. And scripture seems to speak about God's creation, what is directly made, declaring who he is and telling a story. And there's something innate at a deep level. And Jesus kind of hinted at this. It's almost like, that family of cardinals on my walk understands something on a level, and they're not aware of this, but on some intrinsic level understand something about their design more than I do. They're not worried about tomorrow. I am worried about tomorrow. You know what I mean? And so creation is telling a story. Every artist that makes a painting or a statue or sculpts something is trying to communicate a story with that. And that is the same thing that's true about God with what he is creating, and the sky he's painting, and the night sky all those stars that he's speaking out of his mouth, and he's communicating. So it's not even creation talking to you. It's God communicating to you through what has been made. Does that make sense? So it's way more, to use a granola word, organic.
Yeah.
There's no additives.
Yes.
So everything that we do, so even like, the book you wrote, the book I'm writing right now, there's additives. Scripture is no additives.
Yeah.
Scripture is just straight from the source. Every sermon we give has additives. Yeah. And by design, it should. But there's something about, man, that is exactly just from him, though.
Yeah.
So whether it's that, that banana or that, or scripture or that mountain, like this came from God. There's something to that.
Sure.
That is,
organic.
That's healing. And it's just different. It's like set apart. And we're not around it a lot.
Yeah.
We shop in grocery stores in the middle aisles.
We
eat from convenience in the middle aisles in fast food. We're indoors indirectly experiencing what God has made, but rarely are we actually, to bring this back to surfing, immersed in it.
Yeah. To be fair, HEB had a 2-for-1 sale on Dot's pretzels.
Okay.
Get
on
out,
the
man.
internet. What am I supposed to do?
You kidding me?
Those pretzels are incredible. But that is a good point. No additives. I've had people more and more, as we keep pushing people more and more to just read the Bible, that will say things like, even if I'm not reading something that directly is speaking to my moment, it's still, there's something about it that's just different. Like it's different than reading any other book, right? There's no additives. Right. It's the word of God. Talk a little more, both of you, because you guys have, I think in the last years, taken a deep dive into some of like the health, the meeting of health and spirituality, but in like a Christian context, and redeem some of this stuff. I tend to be a little more of like the Jay Pritchett, like, well, you guys are a little woo-woo, here's your ice baths and all that kind of stuff.
You say that to me all the time.
Yeah, I tell you that every day. I text Ryan every morning, hey, woo-woo guy, how's your ice bath in your bare feet, weirdo?
Hey, woo-woo Wekenman.
Yeah. How's the Shire? Getting your feet on the grass.
It's phenomenal. E.
That would be a nice place to live. But because of that mentality, though, I think a lot of people neglect a lot of the things that would make them spiritually healthier that start as what seem like a physical thing, but it's been hijacked by other parts of the world. Talk about some of those practices, some of those things of outside and grounding, like what it's done in your life, why you think that stuff is so beneficial to us as human beings. You said we spend 93% of our time indoors.
Yeah, that's the average. And obviously it's higher in winter.
For sure. And in cold climates.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that's in your house, in your car, at work, in Target, at church, in restaurants, we are outside 7% of the time.
How have you, so I'll just frame it like this. How have you seen God's design through some of the practices like that you've put into your routines that maybe some Christians would go, I don't know.
For sure.
First one for me is I live in my head all the time. And so I'm constantly, part of my spiritual formation into becoming more like Jesus is learning how to get out of my head and into my body and being outside. Especially the simplest way to do this is through using the 5 senses that God gave me to notice what's going on and to observe what's happening around me is tremendously helpful. And so Jesus at one point just goes, hey, look at the birds or consider the lilies. He was always inviting us to use our senses. And so one of the things I'll do, I'll be on a walk or a run or just sitting in my backyard and I'll go, okay, what are 5 things that I can see right now? And I'll just take time and notice them. And then especially when you use hearing, it's so amazing when you quiet down how many sounds are actually going on all around you that you just shove out because there's so much overstimulating, so many stimulants that just keep our minds all over the place. And so when I take some time to do that, it's almost like my mind goes, oh, okay, we can be calm right now. Mm-hmm. Like we don't have to be trying to solve this next sermon or this next book or this next problem or whatever it is. We can just sink in and be present right where we're at. And as soon as I can start to learn to be present in my body and in the nature that I'm in, I just feel like I am connecting with God 10 times quicker and better, and I'm hearing God's voice, and I know it's almost like I'll have these big decisions that I have to make, and I can't figure it out, and then I'll go do that for 5 minutes, and I'll go, oh, I know what I'm supposed to do next. Like I know my next step. It's wild how it happens. I just have to be disciplined enough to actually get outside and do that. It's like turning the volume down on life so I can hear from the Spirit.
Okay, you're a grounding guy. What is the science behind that, Doug?
Not a science guy.
You're the grounding guy, but you're the science guy.
I only know in practice.
The concept is your skin touching grass, touching the earth.
Yes. You go touch grass, bro.
Touch grass.
Yeah, you smoke it, you touch it, whatever it takes. Wait, what?
No.
Oh, let's back this up.
Oh, there was Doug from...
No, I made that as a joke in the sermon.
You sure did, Doug.
I sure did.
Doug in 2008.
Got to be a little provocative. Yeah. Maybe.
Maybe.
Probably. Maybe. Had other problems, but that was never one of them.
Well, right.
So,
grounding. Tell us about grounding.
Well, all I know is something about negative ions or Mayo. Do you know more about this? You don't?
We can cut this part then. That's fine.
I don't know.
Cut the grounding question out. That's fine.
Do you want me to look it up?
I'm not good at the science of it.
Well, okay, I'll explain it this way. There's you know how like in an extension cable, there's the ground. Mm-hmm. And so when lightning strikes, it has to get absorbed by something. Mm-hmm. And so I use this a lot in talking to couples who are having a hard time in marriage. I'm like, usually somebody's a lightning bolt, and then somebody else by default feels like they have to be the ground. And the person who's the ground feels like I can't be another lightning bolt because we can't have 2 lightning bolts and none of this.
That's called a storm.
It's called a storm with nowhere for this lightning to go. And so usually one person's the energy or the emotion, and then the other person kind of just absorbs it. And that's never healthy. But that's what there's something about us as lightning bolts, if you will, whether it's your emotions or, the like entropy or feeling of just off today, or that the ground, literally, why it's called grounding is let something, you get negative ions from the earth in some way or electrons from the earth, and in exchange it absorbs something. I have no idea, to be honest with you, but I think there's something to the fact that lightning gets grounded, because it has to go somewhere.
That's basically like what it says.
Really?
It says, based on the idea that the earth has a negative charge while the human body carries a positive charge. And then when they connect, your body just discharges the excess energy.
Yeah.
And so then,
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. There you go.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
There's what I'm trying to get at here is there's a lot of things that I think have been hijacked that we need redeemed, but also to like claim in our own lives as followers of Jesus. Because when I talk to people that maybe are in the new age world, they're better at practicing things like being present and meditation, which is done in a different context. But scripture is where you first hear about meditating on the words of God, meditating on his presence, meditating on his identity and who he is. And we aren't very good at that. And we kind of, I think, throw out the baby with the bathwater with a lot of those practices that when done under the context of connecting with God and putting him on the throne rather than making it about yourself are really healthy. But instead, we're stressed, we're anxious, we're depressed, we're missing out on all
those practices at the exact same time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's shift a little bit, because the biggest villain in this whole thing and in your sermon is our phones.
Right.
You put your phone away on your walk, and that was hugely helpful for you. One of the things you talked about was, or you can say it in better words, but there's this constant pull and attention grab in your pocket all the time. But it's a thing that none of us can do away with.
Right.
Like we have to have it.
Right.
But it is stealing our ability to get outside.
Right.
And to get outside of ourselves, because it's constantly pointing us back inward. What are some practices or things you'd say about a phone that feels like a necessity, but is probably the biggest thing holding us back from getting outside metaphorically and literally?
Put it to bed. Have a bedtime for it. Where you go, okay, past 9 p.m. or whatever it is, you charge it on the other side of your room that's away from your bed, and you pick up a book and you read something. So no screens past a certain time is just like a very simple, easy, practical first step.
Yeah, everybody's so confused as to why we're not sleeping well. But I think everybody knows. It's not that much of a conundrum or a mystery. It has to do with how stimulating screens are and how addicted we are to them. The quote from the anxious generation is that what phones have done is when we are in a room with community, we have a really hard time being in community. And then when we're alone and in solitude, we have a really hard time just being alone with ourselves. So when you're around people, you tend to be more alone on your phone. And then when you're by yourself, you tend to want to be around people through social media and connecting. And it kind of flip-flops it a little bit. And so, what's most appropriate for this setting, you can't do anymore. And then what's most appropriate for this setting, you can't do anymore either. I think when we hear something like go on a walk and leave your phone, I actually think a lot of people can't. And it's not because like, oh, I have just in case like there's an emergency and I need, no, I think you're terrified of being on a walk for 45 minutes with no music and no podcast and no audiobook and no social media and you know what I mean? You are I think you're actually scared to do that. And that shows an addiction. Obviously, and we all are that. You can give a message in church and we can talk about all these other addictions, and then we throw out and obviously it's the phone and how many hours, and we can make almost like in a joking way, we're all addicted and everybody laughs and kind of giggles. And it's like, when are we gonna though kind of sober up to this, like 10 years from now, realize, oh my gosh, I wish I could go back 10 years and start those walks without my phone and start putting my phone to bed. And because once again, like your attention is the most precious resource you have to give. And every app in here is competing for it. Every social media platform you're on, every company and brand is trying to get your precious attention. So that's what you feel when you carry this, is just the entire world competing for something that you got, which is also kind of why it feels good. I got something every company wants. Every social media platform wants something that I have to give.
That's funny.
And you feel wanted and desired by the world through your phone. You know what I mean? To feel wanted by this thing is weird. I don't even know if I answered your question. I forgot what it was, but that just kind of hit me as I was talking. You feel wanted by the world, by North Face, by Lexus, by Apple, by every company in the world wants something that you have.
And because of that, you have an easy way to avoid being with yourself.
Right.
Or with the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
If I made a meal, say you guys came over to my house, I cooked a meal.
Yeah.
Everyone sat down to eat it. And I served everybody, but I wouldn't give it to my kids. And you're like,
right.
Why didn't you give them any? And I was like, I'm worried it's going to make them sick.
Mm-hmm.
You would not eat what I just cooked.
Mm-hmm.
That is the story of Silicon Valley.
Absolutely. It is.
But we can't stop eating it. I feel like we've probably talked about this 5 times on this podcast. We've talked about it in terms of, it feels to me like the battle of our generation's lifetime.
Yes.
Is to not let your phone control you in what is a deep addiction for nearly every single person.
Mm-hmm. That is more complicated because if you don't use it, you fall behind at some level. Does
or you feel,
sense?
There's a necessity element to it.
For which is work wise.
There's for sure.
For a lot of people.
There's a necessity element. There's a help, like there are benefits from it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can just pull up something on a map in a second and get there without just wasting extra time.
Yes.
Right. So there are benefits, there are necessities.
The best drugs fix some problems for you.
Dude, there was some kind of short video or commercial. We can find it and show it on this because it shows this girl, you know, and she's a young teenager, and it's always just like the cinematography is right in front of her face, and she's bright and she's alive, and then she's given a smartphone, and then it shows how it starts to consume her life and change her, and everything gets a little bit darker, and comparison and addiction and dopamine depletion and all of that stuff. And the whole point was like you're trading their childhood for this. As soon as you give this to them, just know that.
And that's the ultimate question right now. So let's talk about this for parents.
Okay. And that's hard.
Always the question of when do you let your kid have one of these smartphones?
Yeah. Do you guys think about that?
All the time. And I'm so grateful that I haven't had to make that decision yet.
Yeah.
To be 10 years earlier, I don't know, dude. It's almost like a lose-lose situation for parents.
Yeah.
You know, because you give them the smartphone and then their world is opened up to everything that goes with it, or they're missing out and they're the ones in their high school or their middle school who are different and they're not connected the way everybody else is, and that's the
biggest argument to give your kid a phone is because they'll be left out or bullied or they won't have as many friends or connections or whatever. Oof. And that's hard. And it makes sense. I even think about, like, I know the big looming scary things about a smartphone is like the internet and pornography and all these things that, a 10-year-old kid can find. And the amount of men I've talked to in this church that go, dude, I've had a pornography addiction since I was 10, 12, 13.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what I was looking. I didn't even know, but I was just a kid who suddenly got access to the internet. My friends sent this or told me about this.
Yeah.
And something that was way beyond my years suddenly grabbed hold of me. Right. It's a very common story. So there's that looming part of this. Yeah. But for me, it's even the attention part of, like, knowing the second that Zeke gets whatever his first device is that has the internet and has the ability to connect with other people outside of our home, I lose his attention.
Right.
He may not be looking at sinister. Like my nephew, who's 9, has a Apple Watch, and his parents can control. So he has like 7 people he's allowed to text through it.
That's funny.
And I love it because he's in Colorado. I can talk to him. So I think it's great. So there are ways to monitor and control that stuff. But I still know like there's a piece of him now that his brain is outside of his home, and that's going to happen at some point. You have to make a decision.
For sure.
And that just makes me sad because like when Zeke gets home right now, his options are his friends that live next door are hanging out with us at home, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And that will change.
You got to be aware of it, man. I mean, decades ago, smoking was normal. And then it kind of all came out that, oh, this kills you. And then people are kind of shocked at first.
Yeah.
Whoa. Right now, it's food.
Yep.
Really is. The food that we are sold in our country is illegal. I'm talking basic ingredients and all the additives and all the chemicals that we get here is illegal even in Canada. Wow. Lucky Charms has different ingredients in every other country except this country.
Whoa. Jeez.
It's more addicting here.
That is not good for you.
No, it's not. So but for real, it's like right now what's happening and what is, over the next few years is going to have a reckoning and everything is surfacing, which praise God for that, is the relationship between the food industry creating addictive food and the pharmaceutical industry and the medical world that is not healthcare, it's sick care, because if they can give prescriptions that are ongoing for the rest of your life to take care of problems created by the food industry, then that's money, 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 money. But if you're healthy, they make nothing. And that all has been, now everybody's starting to see that. So it was like smoking, and now it's, oh my gosh, food. Like we've all been consuming something that you could argue is worse. And all the problems and disease and how much higher it is here than anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
And what it's going to be sooner than later is this.
Yes.
Wow. We're going to be like, we used to spend how much time on phones? And so it's the idea of like, can you see past that? Yeah. And can you stay aware of that and have, I said this in a message maybe last year, but the future belongs to those with self-control. The future belongs to those who can self-regulate and have a phone on them, but not have the phone have them.
Right.
Walk into a grocery store and be able to enjoy, and hey, pretzel, like those are good. Like we're gonna celebrate. We don't have to be crazy about this.
But those also, who are healthy.
Correct. Yep. It's the same kind of thing. And so I think more and more so I'm realizing even the body God's given me knows how to heal itself. There is an intrinsic intelligence that is the image of God.
Yeah.
There is even you watch podcasts and health podcasts, they don't even believe in God, but they all talk about the way your body is designed. They all use the word design because nobody can explain it in any other way. They're like, it's so complicated and beautiful and intrinsic and intelligent that it's a design. And so the more and more I realize, hey, if I just eat stuff God made, and if I go outside and get vitamin D on my face in the sunshine for 10 minutes, in the place that he made, and I give my body what it needs to heal. It's like your body it knows how to heal, but we just don't give it the raw materials made by God that it needs to heal.
Yeah.
We keep making it more and more sick. We keep making it more and more, manufactured things, whether it's food or whether it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, and we've replaced the direct contact with what God has made with so many indirect things. But at the end of the day, it's like all the stuff God made, and even we'll replace it with vitamin D supplements, which is great. But vitamin D from the sun is 30 times better for you and absorbs faster, and starting to realize, oh, maybe God knows what he's doing. And we keep trying to outsmart him and solve this ourselves.
Or throw it all out because we think it's hippie.
Yeah.
Kind of.
What's interesting is we've also done the same thing with God historically, is even when you look at the history of religion, so much of it is us trying to figure out, okay, there's God and then there's us. Let's create a bunch of in-between things that we can go to help us get there. Let's create a whole bunch of middle of the aisle grocery store things that we can go to. And then if you look at like different cults that have happened over the years, there's just more and more in-betweens. So it's like you have to pay this amount of money, or you have to do this amount of things, or you have to talk to this guy because this guy has this special knowledge that can get you. And it's like anytime you're adding something in between you and God, it's losing its organic feel. And it's the same thing with food. It's the same thing with being outside.
Yeah.
And so like really what I feel like we're saying in this episode is the more that we can just get back to the Creator and being with the Creator, eating the food that the Creator creates, spending time in creation, the creation that Creator created, and spending time with other people who the Creator has also created, we're just going to feel better. We're just putting up all of these walls that are coming in between us and the Creator.
Human nature is to build barriers between us and God. And we do that with all the things that he provided for us as well.
Which we do out of fear, by the way. It goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
You get,
Exactly.
You get scared and you run and you hide.
Put a barrier immediately right there. When I talk to somebody who's like really like they think a lot about this stuff and they're very healthy and they have all these routines and things they do and stuff, I generally walk away overwhelmed.
For sure.
Because I feel like, I got to revolutionize my life, but I have a job, I have kids, I have a lot going on.
Yeah.
So what are a few practical steps that you'd say, like, don't just suddenly feel like you have to rewrite your whole life, but here's a couple of things to introduce, whether it's diet or being outside or spiritual practices.
Yeah, because a quick word on that, I talk to a lot of people in our church too who are very afraid, and they're the ones who listen to the most health podcasts and read the most books and are trying to take it to the extreme.
Yeah.
And they're terrified of sickness.
Yeah.
And they're terrified of dying.
Yeah.
And they're terrified of, and there's a lot of fear.
Yeah.
And so fear can actually, some of the people or even influencers who are most far down this road that we call good, this is a good road to go down.
Yeah.
You can be driven down it by fear.
So good.
And then you're living in a constant state of, now you're afraid of the world and you're afraid that you can't touch that. You can't enjoy yourself anymore.
Right.
You can't.
Dude, a big one
Yes.
is anti-aging,
yeah.
which is, of course, we all want to stay young. We all want youth. We all want to do things that are going to allow us to have lots of energy when we're older. I'm all for all of that. And then you keep watching it and you go, oh, this person's terrified of death. This person's terrified of getting older. This person's terrified of the thing that's coming for every single one of us. You can push it back 5 years, push it back 10 years. That's great. I want that for you. At some point, though, you have to come face to face with the reality that you're holding on really, really, really tight to this life and that you're terrified to grow old.
Yeah.
Your
It's
body. Yeah, go ahead.
The two sides of the pendulum. The one extreme is like, oh, who cares? It's all going to burn and I'm going to die. So I'll eat whatever and I'll live however. And you're very unhealthy.
Right.
To the other side of being so health conscious that you be like, your health is your world.
Correct.
And it's your obsession, which really becomes all about you. And you're not actually healthy. Like you might be physically healthy or whatever, but you're not truly healthy because you don't enjoy life.
Right.
And you're so like imprisoned by those fears and stuff. So those are the two extremes. How do we get a balance?
And that's
to
what
be
I
a healthy
feel.
person?
Yeah, when I talk to people who are on that extreme, I'm like, you are so healthy, but you don't even realize how much you're talking about yourself for the whole conversation we're in right now.
Right.
Yeah.
You are so like, you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
No.
It just kind of happens by fear.
It just happens, man.
So how do you kind of settle?
And on a spiritual level too, there's people that like, man, they listen to so many podcasts and read so many books and so many things that when you talk to them, you walk away overwhelmed too, where you're like,
For
oh my gosh,
sure.
I don't even know anything.
For sure.
But sometimes I feel like we as people can become very informed, but that doesn't mean we're spiritually healthy.
Right.
We can be like inundated and overwhelmed and we know a lot and we can say a lot and we're consuming a lot.
Right.
But we've lost, so I guess this introduces one of the first ones, what you just did of silence and solitude.
Right.
We do not program that in because that like, and I'm guilty of this. That sometimes feels like wasted time to me. Because I don't have 30 minutes to go just be in silence.
Right.
I got stuff to do. And if I don't get something from God or an answer and I'm just in silence for 30 minutes, it's like, well, I could have used that for 12 other things.
That's how I feel on a sermon prep week. I'm like, I'm going to go for a 40-minute walk and not listen to content that I could use this weekend.
Right.
And not rehearse my sermon in my head.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
You have to fight for that.
It's
But I do think it's more barriers, right? Like podcasts and books and all those things can be healthy, but we create more barriers than just spending time with God.
Yeah. And I remember the temple series we did last year, saying I've never heard a sermon about this in church, about your physical body, but it is a temple. It is a gift given to you.
Yeah.
And it is the vessel or the vehicle, if you will, that your spirit shows up to the world. So it's hard to be a good pastor. It's hard to be a present dad, or you got energy to bring your kids on adventures and energy to lead a staff. And when you just feel bad all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're not sleeping well because of all your daily habits and screens and caffeine overload and processed food. And so you are a 3 out of 10 of the way you could be showing up because you're not stewarding the temple God's given you to steward. Yeah. And so this is a very godly biblical concept.
Yeah.
He cares how you take care of this temple.
Yeah.
And so I would say from, silence and solitude to try to get outside a little bit every day. Try to, so movement and nutrition.
Yeah. Movement and nutrition.
So exercise is stewarding the body God has given you. Walking, more and more research coming out about walking right now. People who take at least 7,000 steps a day have a certain amount of more energy because of how their mitochondria function and all of that stuff. So if you find yourself in a job where you're at a desk a lot, it's okay, you have that phone call, can for 3 to 5 minutes every hour, you just go for a little walk.
Yeah.
Here, I do a lot of phone calls where I'm just walking around the building. If I find myself sitting in front of a computer sermon prepping too much, I just go for some walks. Lifting weights.
Sweating, just in general.
Yeah, sweating.
Very good for you.
Yeah. And then try just to be mindful, I think, of what you're eating. It's not rocket science. You can get down to basically rocket science with, there's different influencers like Dr. Mark Hyman, who lives in Austin, who has been saying this kind of stuff for the last few decades, who really makes it simple.
Yeah.
And he was the one who I got that from, where he said, is it the vegan diet? Is it the paleo diet? I think they just all eat foods that God made.
Yeah.
And so if you could try to eat more food that God made and less food, not that you have to be perfect, but just be mindful of it, then I think you're going to find that you start sleeping better at night too. And all these things are connected to each other. Yeah. And then your relationship with God is stronger.
Yeah.
And you're more effective for building the kingdom of God. And you're a better spouse and you're a better parent because you are stewarding the vessel that you show up to everybody.
Yep. All those diets sometimes feel like the Spider-Man meme. They're pointing at each other and you're like, you're all, what do everyone's saying different things and stuff, but there are some basic obvious.
Yeah. And if you want to get caught up in the arguments, that's fine, but don't let that overwhelm you to where you go, well, if they don't know, if they're all disagreeing, what the heck, they're disagreeing on some things,
lower
but
tier.
The main thing they all agree on is eating things that are like whole foods.
God made.
And let me say this, and this is a bummer, and this isn't throwing stones at anybody in particular. I've probably done the same thing. It's marketing to go, you've been lied to.
Right.
This blah, blah, blah.
But if you buy this book,
that's how
Salad
we try to get.
Not good for you.
That's how we try to get people's attention.
I think it
right?
probably is. It's pretty good.
95% of it is common sense.
Yeah.
And if you can learn that common sense, we can argue about the other 5%. But 95%. The problem is people just get so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So then they don't do the 95%.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
There's been disruptors more recently with the pharmaceutical world, whistleblowing. There's been disruptors with food. My question is, who's going to be the disruptors with phones? Who's going to
We're certainly trying, aren't we?
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm talking about even companies that I think there are now phones that people are making.
And
that are
Tristan Harris kind of kicked it off a little bit
a
few years ago.
Yeah. What was the documentary called?
The Social Dilemma.
Social Dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to have to be a lot more disruption in that to keep pulling us back to the surface, because we all say this and we all know it's true. And then an hour from now, we'll be phone fasts. something that I have meant to do and rarely applied.
Yeah.
But there's the TechWise Family is a really good short book I once read, and he always suggested, or he always did, 1 hour a day, 1 day a week, 1 week a year.
Ooh.
Without a phone.
Say more about that.
You're off your phone an hour a day.
Okay.
While you're sleeping.
Oh man,
That's
that was
the
my
loophole. An hour a day without your phone, a day a week without your phone, which would be a Sabbath concept.
Yeah.
And you should do an instant replay of that because there was still some in there.
Yeah.
And
it's just my office. It's
all
fun.
over
1
the
week
studio.
a year. 1 week a year.
I love it, man. That's
And,
so
and
good.
hey, again, you could hear that and go, oh, I can't because I have kids or I have a job, whatever. Okay, find an amount of time to start with that you could do and go without your phone for half an hour a day or 1 day, in a month or something.
You know what this is really good for? Because Sam, if
Keeping you
there's
connected to your
Staying
phone.
connected always.
guys, just get an Apple Watch, then you can leave your phone. No, but truly, this I'd like to meet anybody who uses more of 3% of what an Apple Watch does, who actually uses all of it. I don't know that person exists, but
That's such a funny way to say that.
I can leave this, and then I can go to the grocery store. I can take the kids to the park, and if there's an emergency, because that's
This
like
is
the
a
big
dumbed down
thing.
version where you can't
This is like somebody can call me.
call, text.
Yeah, but I'm not going to go on, I'm not going to search the web. I'm not going to go on social media.
Yes.
I'm not going to watch YouTube videos. I'm not even really going to text here. I'm not checking my emails.
Yeah.
This is just
Just in case.
case.
Just to watch videos. Just watch YouTube.
Just to watch YouTube.
Well,
No, but it really is
the
like it
biggest,
tracks my steps and my sleep, and then
Nice.
and then if there's an emergency, somebody can call me, and I can leave this,
Yes.
and then I'm not tempted to.
The biggest
Yeah.
question that we all have to answer is, will you be the disruptor in your own life?
Correct.
Because if you won't, then it doesn't matter. There can be a million documentaries and articles and science and research and all this stuff. It will not matter.
Right.
Until we each take steps to apply. But the most important thing, my final takeaway from your sermon, a lot of those profound moments, to bring this back to the Christmas story, where people heard from God in a profound way that changed the course of human history. Probably a lot of that they were able to hear because they were so undistracted.
Yes.
Right.
And some of that was circumstantial in the eras they lived in.
Right.
But I just think about now, I'm like, God is speaking. I met with a guy the other day. He goes, man, I realized looking back, God was always speaking to me. I never listened.
No.
And that's true of all of us. But what profound things is God trying to say to us? And we just do not hear him because we are so distracted, and we will never go outside and look up and think about him and then listen and be patient to hear his voice. I'm preaching to myself right now. In college, did that all the time.
Yeah.
Had more time to do it, no doubt about it. But I have time to do it now.
Yeah.
I just rarely take advantage of that.
You have a commute that you actually don't have to listen to anything.
Yep. And it feels like
And it's hard.
the Christian achiever in all of us is like, but I should be listening to that podcast.
Yeah.
I should be listening to this. I should, whatever. I have to maximize every second of every time. And instead, I think God's just looking at us like, I'm right here.
Yeah.
It's like if my sons were in my house all the time and we're all there, but they always just went and read books about me that other people wrote
Right.
instead of just coming to talk to me and ask
Right.
me what I think about stuff and ask questions. Like, well, I also could hand them a biography that I wrote,
Right.
we look for every other way to find our way to God other than just going directly to him.
And that's the big problem in the Christian world, is we probably do maybe 5% of what we hear. So all the sermons, all the books, all the podcasts, you get a hit of dopamine when you listen to something and you go, oh, that's good. And so your payoff is that was it.
Yeah.
It was the hearing of it that led you to feel good for a moment because of the way it was presented, or, oh, that person got him, or, oh, that's such a good point. And it's like your whole reward was just that, was the little hit of dopamine you got from doing that. I heard recently a quote that was, if you have a goal or if you have a dream, like in the next year, I want to accomplish this, don't tell anybody. Because when you tell somebody, you get a little dopamine hit from doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was your reward, was telling somebody you're going to write a book.
Yep.
But if you could stop telling people and you save that dopamine to actually do it,
Dude.
you kind of cash in on it in a cheap way right here. And all of our content that we hear is kind of, we I wish I could see a stat on, I say a lot, we are over-taught and under-applied. I want to know how much we apply versus how much we're taught.
Oh.
Because your life is only changed as a Christian too. You don't need more content unless it's the organic, like, word of God. I'm going to meet with him. You need to do what you know.
Yep.
You don't need a new revelation. You don't need because revelations, when you feel like, oh, that was a big realization I just had, that feels good. But you don't probably need a new one of those for another year. You need to do what you know.
Yeah.
And that's where your life's really going to change.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you're really going to see more health.
Totally.
But that is a process where the payoff is way later.
Mm-hmm.
It's way greater, but it's way later.
Yeah.
And we just have infinite ways to get a quick and easy payoff right now.
Yeah.
That's what this is I'm a little bummed out right now. This will solve it really quick.
Yeah.
But then we know how that goes. This is welcome to the world of addiction.
We just want the easy track of just getting all the supplements
Right.
rather than going to the actual source that's going
Right.
to give us what we truly need.
Mhm.
And that's true of health.
Mhm.
It's easier to just pop a couple vitamin D pills, which is a funny way of saying that about
Yeah.
vitamins, but and then
But-
go out, spend some time
But
out
supplements,
in the sun, right?
that's exactly what it is. It's
Yes.
supplemental
Right.
To
to
what
the
you're
food you're already eating or the
Yes.
sunlight you're
Yes.
already getting or the way you're,
So-
rather than, and a lot of us we start living on supplements.
And from a
Right,
spiritual standpoint, reading a great Christian novel written by Ryan or Doug, for
Thanks,
example,
man.
listen to a podcast, whatever, worship song, any of that is supplemental. Even
Supplemental.
going to church
Yeah.
is supposed to be supplemental to the relationship you are already forging
Correct.
with God in your daily interactions together.
Correct.
But
Mhm.
most of us don't operate
No.
that way. We just fill with the supplements and call that our relationship with God. And I say all that to say there's a lot more for us. There's a lot better
Yes.
for us.
Yes.
Mhm.
We just have to be disruptors and apply some of that.
Will you be the disruptor of your own phone? That's the big question.
That's a great
That was great.
question. Break it.
Oh my goodness.
I don't even have a phone anymore.
Oh,
I don't either.
I remember when I used
that
to,
bad stewardship?
when I used to
Of
have
my
a phone,
but not of my brain.
That's it.
so true.
That'll preach.
Yeah.
when I used to have a phone, I was distracted. I'm so present with you guys now.
Oh, dude.
Well,
This is my favorite part of the podcast.
once
episode.
Romeo cuts out some parts of this that were not our best, this should be about an hour. So you should love listening to it, Doug.
Yep.
And
I stopped listening 40 minutes ago. 22 minutes.
until next time,
Until next
next time.
Boom.
go outside.